Today I'm going to do a quick little crochet tutorial for beginners. We are going to make just a simple square. I'm definitely not an expert crocheter, and I probably don't use the right terminology, so I apologize. But I'm just going to explain it, how it makes sense in my head, because I think that's easier than using the right terminology when you're just starting out. But anyway, we're going to make a square. So I'm using this yarn, which is cotton yarn, but you can use acrylic or anything else. You can use wool as well. I just prefer cotton. So I'm going to unravel a little bit. As for hooks, there are so many different sizes, and there's particular sizes that go with particular yarns. I just kind of choose whatever hook I think is going to work for the yarn. I'm using a 3.5mm hook. Just use whatever you think. To get started, we need to make a little loop. Now there's a couple ways to do this. I'm just going to explain how I do it, but if this is too confusing for you, you can look up a slip knot tutorial from someone else. But anyway, so I'm going to get a little bit of my yarn like this. We're just going to fold it like that, and I'm going to put this little tail underneath the longer bit of string, and then I'm going to take the tail and tie a knot over this string. So just using the tail string and then tying a knot over it like that, so that when you pull on this string it makes the loop smaller. Now we have the little loop, and you're just going to put it onto your hook. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is chain. It's called a chain stitch. So we're going to, there's many ways to hold the string. Sometimes the way that I hold it hurts my hands a bit, but however you feel comfortable holding it. I have my hook in my right hand, and then to hold the string, I hold the knot here with my thumb and my ring finger over here. Hold it like that, and then I use my pointer finger and my middle finger to hold the tail, which is attached to the ball of wool. So we're going to start a chain. What we're going to do, hold the knot at the bottom here near the hook, and we're going to twist our hook. So you can see it's like this way, and the hook is facing that way. So the hook is separate from the yarn. We're going to put it over the yarn and kind of behind it and twist the hook forward. So now you can see we've got a little bit of a twisty bit on the hook, and then we're going to pull that through that loop. And now we have a little chain. So I'll just show you that again. So the yarn and the hook is separate. We put the hook over top of the yarn, put the top of the hook behind the yarn, and then twist it forward, and then pull that bit through. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense? I don't know. Now you can make as many little chains as you want. This is going to determine how long your little project is. So for these squares I'm doing 20, so I'm going to chain 20. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, this next part is going to be a little bit hard to explain, but I'm going to do it closer to my table. Okay, now completing the first row is the hardest, because once you get started it's a little bit easier. We are going to look at our loops. So we've got one loop on our hook, and then, oops, it's a bit loose, and then each chain is like one little loop, if you can see the little loops. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip the first loop. So there's one loop on our hook, we're not going to worry about that. Then the first loop that's off our hook, we're going to skip that one and then look at the second loop. And you'll see that it kind of is broken up into 3 strands. Can you see that? There's like, if you push it, there's like 3 strands. We want to go on the top strand. We want to put our hook through that. It should go through pretty easily because it's not too tight. But yeah, so there's 3 little pieces of string that you can see. You want to put your hook just through the top one. Does that make sense? And then we're going to do the same thing when we were making the chains, except this time our yarn is on the other side of our hook. So we're just going to put our hook, put our hook underneath the yarn, bring it forward and pull it through. And then we have 2 little loops on our hook, 1, 2, and then we're going to do that again, pull the yarn through, but pull through both of those little loops. And you just did a single stitch, which is known as a single crochet, or written as SC if you're looking at a written pattern. So then you just can keep doing that same thing into the next little loop here in the chain. So we yarn over, which is what that is called. Hang on, let me do it again. Okay, so the top little loop of our stitch, and then this is yarning over. I forgot to say that. Putting the yarn around the hook and pulling it through. And then you have 2 loops, and then pull it through like that. So yeah, like I said, the first row is kind of the hardest, because there's not much to really hold on to, so you just kind of have to go slow at the start, but as you can see, it'll start to build up your little project, and then I'll show you how you turn around and start the next row. Okay, once you've reached the end, oh, and it's okay if it kind of spirals up like this. I have no idea why it does this, and it does it to me every single time. It kind of goes in a spiral like this, but when you do the next row, it'll kind of figure itself out. Okay, so here's our first row. Very cute. So to do the next row, so we need to turn around now. So you've finished this. Sorry, I'm trying to get the lighting nice. So we're going to do like what we did when we were making a chain. We're just going to single chain an extra one on the end there. And then we're going to flip our work, so now we're this way. So you're working like this, and it's down your hook, like that. You're gonna flip it up, and then it's like beside your hook. And now the same thing what we did when we started, we're gonna skip that first little loopy bit, and we're gonna go into the second loopy bit. Now this time, you can see that there's 2 loops on top, like 2 little bits on top. We're going to go through both of those little pieces of string there. There should be a gap there you can stick your hook through. So we're going to put it through that, and then do the yarn over, pull it through, and then pull it through both like we did before. If you look here, you can find the next loop and then just push it through, so you've just got those 2 little top loops on your hook, and then yarn over and then pull through like that. And then you just keep doing that, and then once you get to the end of this row, you do the same. You make 1 little extra chain, and then you turn around and go into the second little loopy bit, and then you just keep turning around until you're finished. And then I will show you also how to finish off a project, but I'll go back to this one because this one's already finished. Okay, so after you've crocheted as many rows as you want, and then when you reach the end of this one, so once you reach this, so we're completely done, I've worked it up as much as I want. Now we're going to finish it off with a slip stitch, which, oh, and you can cut your string too. Mine's already cut because this was finished, but I'm just showing you what to do. So we're going to do the yarn over, so we're going to put our hook behind the wool and pull it forward and pull the yarn through that loop like that. So you've created an extra loop like we were doing when we turned around the rows, but instead of turning back around to do another row, we're just going to pull the rest of the yarn through that loop. So just keep pulling on it with your hook until the end tail comes out, and then just tighten it a bit, and then that has created your little slip knot on the end. And then I'll do another video another day teaching you how to like stitch squares together, but then once you make a couple squares, you can put them all together and work up a bigger project. I hope this was helpful. I know I'm not the best at explaining things. Like I said, I don't really use the right terminology, and I just kind of go with the flow, and I kind of make up what I'm doing sometimes, but it seems to work for me. So yeah, if you need any help or have any questions, I'm more than happy to help.